Tom Packer. He is a fellow at the American Institute in Oxford University. Tom, great to have you here with us on TRT World. I mean, this is not the first time we are hearing Donald Trump going to a court, but certainly the first time a former U.S. president is going to become part of a criminal trial. What do you make of this? What is the significance of this case on the wider political spectrum of the U.S.?
So I suppose we've been coming here for a while. So Richard Nixon might have ended up on trial, but he, of course, got pardoned, though he might not have ended up on trial anyway. I think in many ways, perhaps above all, it speaks to the growing polarization in the United States, this particular case in particular, because some of the other cases, you could say there's quite a strong case. This one, the case really is quite weak. It's based on the idea of paying off your mistress as a campaign expense. It's based on the idea it's fraudulent when to reclassify something as legal expense. Now, Hillary Clinton, who also is in New York State, her campaign actually got fined for classifying research into Donald Trump as a legal expense. So I think it says something that Manhattan is like 80% plus Democratic. Alvin Bragg is on the left of the Democratic Party. He's won as a campaigning district attorney. And this is a way he's gained fame and maybe achieved a blow against the guy who's the number one demon figure for the Democratic Party. So I think the nature of this case speaks partly to Mr. Trump's personality, probably no previous president's paid off a porn star, but also speaks, I think, to the growing degree to which lawfare has become a central part of US politics.
Okay, Tom, a few questions here. And I'm sure the audience must be wondering as well, if Donald Trump is convicted, that does not mean he will be barred from running for office, correct?
Yes, I think that's correct. For start, there'll be lots of appeals, as I kind of indicated what I said before. I think for this case, he has extremely strong case of appeal. So I think there's every chance the prosecution will be thrown out. John Edwards, who people might vaguely remember being a prominent Democratic politician in the 2000s, he got convicted on some similar things of organising a sort of slush fund for his mistress, and he got overturned by the US Supreme Court in the end. And then secondly, even if he doesn't win them, the appeals will go off in cases. Then if he's president, there'll be an interesting question about whether they can send him to jail when he's president. I think the courts will rule, this would be my guess, any prison sentence he has to serve has to be after he's president. You can't throw the existing president into jail, but he's not above the law and doesn't automatically waive his prison sentence. I think that's by far the most likely thing to happen, even if this conviction stands.
And Tom, as you know, Donald Trump is trying to reclaim the White House. Of course, he should be on the campaign trail right now, but he is in court fighting his case. But this is what I wonder. I mean, what's better publicity than making headlines on all international channels across the world? I mean, that's a very good campaign, is it not?
Well, you maybe test the case, all publicity is good publicity to destruction. I do think even if people start being sympathetic to him on the merits, like so far the evidence has been that the swing voter thinks it's a dodgy case, thinks he's probably guilty anyway, but also isn't that interested. I kind of feel that this will be quite bad publicity because it will just keep bringing up bad stuff he's done or iffy sounding stuff he's done.
To that point, Tom, I mean, does that perhaps change in any way Donald Trump's popularity among his base? Because as I understand, every time something bad has happened to Trump in the past, that has kind of worked into his advantage, especially when I talk about his base.
I think that's a bit exaggerated. I think there's something in that in his base. Like Americans, I kind of indicate this in the lawfare, are very polarized, in politics. So the 40%, 45% of the country that's strongly Republican will just, this is likely just have a rallying effect around Trump, though some of them will be a bit uneasy about his sex life. But if they're interested, they kind of know that anyway. What matters, of course, are swing voters, right? So if you look at the polls, he and Joe Biden are very close. If you look at the swing states, they're very close. And I think it's a bit unpredictable what the effect will be on swing voters. Like, I think in some ways, perhaps the safest thing is they're not paying much attention. It won't have much effect. Will they see this as persecution and outrageous, or will they see this as a sign Donald Trump is an inferior human being to Joe Biden? I think there might be a bit of both, to be honest. I kind of think it will probably hurt him. One thing I will say, which is a bit in tension with your point about publicity, is when he's not campaigning, he can't make outrageous statements, which sometimes hurt him. Can help him, but can also hurt him. So tying him up in court stops him campaigning, but that isn't necessarily entirely a good thing for Joe Biden. And the other thing, of course, is this is going to cloud out politics in general. So if Joe Biden is trying to make a big message on abortion or on the economy is likely to be clouded out a bit by this trial. Like, if there's one thing Donald Trump's good at doing, it's hogging the headlines.
Fascinating insights into the topic, as always. Tom Packer, thanks very much for talking to us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time.